certainty, that deep certainty that you have the ability, isn't it?
Where are you from the
Cloverton.
Oh,
I'm so gutted I missed this festival. I
Oh,
can't
it was so
believe
good.
it.
It was so good.
800 people yesterday.
yeah.
I did the advertising marketing as well.
Wow.
And because we had someone, but she pulled out and I'd never done it before, and she's a professional. I'm like, oh my god. Anyway, I pulled it off. I bluffed my way through. I always bluff. Look, next to you you'll find out. You'll know about it. It was such a good.
But his bit is a cooking courses. I did a gnocchi course.
Oh, awesome.
So I organised
Yeah.
that. I wanted to introduce cooking Italian cooking demonstrations, and the lady who did the cooking demonstrations yesterday, she's from Blenheim, so I've negotiated a deal with her, and we're going to put on cooking, regular ones. But she's way better than. I mean, Enrico was good, but
she's what she does.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
Yeah.
I can't wait to do that one.
So many, and just want to acknowledge how freaking awesome it is that all of you have such an important role in our communities, and how important it is that you are showing up and being who you are, so that you can lead people to that same common ground, like you're talking about. Everyone has the same vision, but we don't know how to get there. But really awesome to be taking the time and putting in your efforts. It's just so great for Nelson and the area. I really love it.
The reason why I'm doing it, and why I'm putting in so much effort now, is because of COVID and how segregated the community became with this vaccination and non-vaccination, disgusting behaviour, and it caused such a rift from the community and it's still happening. But I wanted to put on events and bring everyone together, stop this discrimination, and start being a community again. And that's what's driving me on putting this on, because I feel so upset on what happened, and I was unvaccinated, and the discrimination that I experienced was absolutely appalling. I could not believe it.
It's an excuse for bad behaviour, doesn't it?
And it was so unnecessary. It wasn't even true what they said anyway. But I just want to bring the community back together again, and that's what drives me to do
I
it.
think the isolation was in the community, and former teacher seeing, knowing that there's kids that used to come to school because it's a safe haven, and thinking, what the hell has happened to them? The longer we were in lockdown, it just,
Yeah, completely. And just how, when they have done studies on people that live the longest in the world, the common factor wasn't diet, wasn't anything, it was community. Oh, exactly. Yeah.
Lovely little Italian island.
Yeah, but just wonderful, and I really value that, so that's so great what you're doing. And even just having the tools and people to be able to lean on, that you've got the resources, you can figure out a way to make it work. Even if funding's tight, that resourcefulness to be able to do what you can with the resources that you have is awesome. So we're just going to run through a couple of steps. We've already kind of talked about these, but we said that sometimes we go into our negative default because we're humans, and that's what happens. But the first stage is just really being aware, and being aware of your teams as well, catching that negativity and going back to communication, just being able to have that conversation with them to say, like, hey, I just want to chat to you about maybe something you haven't noticed in your language or in the way that you are showing up. These kind of conversations, even though they're tiny little things, maybe someone gives a shitty little excuse and you could just let it slide, but now that you recognise that they are all incremental things that add up to the bigger picture, knowing how important it is to stop and have those conversations with the people.
You pull aside and just have that conversation, or do you do it within the group, either community meeting or?
So the thing is that you have to build a culture slowly, right? So you can get to the point where you do it in the group, and that's what I encourage my business owners to do within their staffing. But they ask permission first, and they slowly start doing it. Hey, is it okay if I just share with you a little bit of feedback? And that's the way that it's going to start being like, oh, okay, this is a little bit of feedback. But first, you have to start valuing growth and talk about growth a lot. So there's lots of different stages. And when I'm working with business owners, it's not just like, you go out and be evangelistic about the new way. It's like small steps that they bring into it. But in a volunteer position or a community position, having just a really light chat with someone and making it not seem like a formal thing. Is it okay if I share with you something that I've noticed? It doesn't need to be, hey, you are doing this. It's just, have you ever thought about maybe potentially that's the way that you can share it?
I had an experience the other day. One of the volunteers, she's been with the club a long time, her mum was a president, and she's very intimidating and very gruff. And when we have pizza nights, she volunteers and she's really rude to people, and she bosses everyone around, all the other volunteers around, and no one was volunteering when she was there because they couldn't stand her. Anyway, so she volunteered for a pizza night and the festival, and I wrote her an email back and I said to her, look, with all due respect, you know, it's fantastic what you're doing in volunteering, but with all due respect, could you please, you know, not tell people what to do, and you know, you just do what you need to do, and just, you know, look at. And I tried to say, like, I'm not the most tactful person, and I tried to say it in the most lovely way without, Anyway, so she came in and did a pizza night, and the president said that her demeanour was a lot better. But she came up to me and she gave the hugest swipe to me about what I said to her in the email. And I said nothing, and I'm just like, okay. And I just went off. But her demeanour changed. But she made sure she gave me a huge swipe.
Yeah, I mean, she had to for her ego, right?
Yeah. But I tried to approach it in the best way, but I had to say something because she was just horrible.
Yeah, well, good on you. And it is a muscle that you have to build. You know, it's not easy, especially in New Zealand. People hate confrontation. Confrontation doesn't need to mean conflict. It can just mean holding someone to a higher standard. And that's what you want to really create as a culture where you can hold people to a higher standard because they recognise that you're moving towards a greater purpose. It's not about feelings. That's a really shitty conversation. It's about the outcomes that you want to achieve for the greater community, right?
So you talk more about if you did this outcome would benefit us more.
Yeah,
That's
totally.
what-
Keep
yeah.
it at
Or
an
just-
outcome-focused
Yeah.
conversation.
Right.
You know,
Okay.
like, maybe this lady, she's got hurt feelings because you've had to hold her to a higher standard and she's defensive, but then you recognise, you can share with her, hey, I really value that, it's probably really hard for you to hear, and for the overall purpose of this community working in the way that it's moving, we want to make sure that people are spreading word of mouth, coming back to this festival, and that is more important right now than the way that you feel.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
And you've got a wonderful opportunity where somebody has to praise her. If a demeanour change,
And it's better.
I should have said something, shouldn't I?
if there's somebody
You still
who-
can though, because you can say
Yeah.
actually people have commented.
you can say you
how much they
heard.
enjoyed.
Yeah, I love that.
Maybe not because, you know, you tend to be kind of careful how you word it, I suppose, but yeah.
But I did notice yesterday, I showed one of the old Italian ladies how to use a commercial dishwasher, and then I walked in the kitchen and the woman said, oh, I'm a little bit unsure if I'm doing this correctly because Nicola told me that I wasn't doing it right. And Nicola, yeah, you weren't doing it right. And then I showed them all again and, oh, I was doing it right. And the poor lady, she was so unconfident. And that lady went straight back to her negative, no, you're not doing it right, bossing her around sort of thing.
It's a progression, right? If she did
Yeah.
one thing
Hard to
right,
change
she can be
culture.
acknowledged for that. Exactly.
She
And-
just forgot.
yeah, really great.
At
It's a
least
default,
she
you know?
It's a
has
default.
made some changes at some
Yeah.
time.
That's a good point. And
Yeah.
I need to reinforce that she did
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Do you recommend, Danny, that you'd say something verbally more so than in a written form?
Either or, you know.
Is it easier?
It depends
Is it
if
softer?
it's better to do it.
Yeah.
I would say verbal, but some people they find it really hard and they find it better to communicate via an email because
Right.
they can take time to think about it. And my advice is always do what you can to start off with, because it's really hard to build that muscle. Not really hard, it's a challenge that leaders have to accept.
Yeah.
And every time you do one thing right, you acknowledge yourself for it. But yeah, really having that conversation can make it really chill instead of like a formal thing. Like, just want to bring up one little thing. And that energy doesn't meet defensiveness. Because if you say, you're doing this wrong, imagine, like the psychological defenses are up straight away, the ego is going to get hurt.
Yeah.
But if it's something that you just kind of slip under the door, then it's more likely to be taken on board. Just a couple more things before morning tea. So we talked about teaching it to others, so being able to have that model available. You can print it out and put it in your office. When you're bringing up conversations and meetings and things, hey, just really want to